And welcome to Imagination Fun Time. I am your host, Brandon Devine. How are you all today? I hope you're all doing well. Today is Friday, May 7th, 2021. Ah, man, I can't believe it's 2021. Jesus Christ, I'm getting old. Um, I hope you're all doing good during this hopefully end phase of COVID. It's been a pretty rough time. Oh my God, today the weather has been pretty rough outside here in middle of nowhere, Arkansas. Oh God, I can't wait to get out of this state. Um, I hope you're all doing good. I hope you all have been doing something fun to entertain yourselves. Hope either most of you are back to work or getting in the phases of getting back to work while the world is recovering. So this is the first episode of Imagination Fun Time. And for those of you who want to know more what this podcast is about, you can click on the ad below, above. I'm not sure where it is on your screen, but there is a short pilot episode that explains the whole mission of what this podcast is about. But basically, yeah, we're just going to be talking about movies, television, stuff like that. And basically, maybe anything else I want to talk about. It's my fucking podcast. I can do whatever I want. So, let us start off by seeing what the news is on IMDb. Any new? There's the Stranger Things trailer. That was a pretty good trailer, I guess. All right, what is the news on IMDb today? All right, let's see. Top news, it says Camila Cabello's Cinderella is skipping. Naturally, everything is skipping theaters and going right to streaming nowadays. That's a whole nother argument that I definitely don't want to get into because I know it'll either piss a lot of people off or it'll piss me off. I'm not sure. All right, let's see. It says Lily Sing. Oh my God, dyslexia is getting in the way. Lily Sing. I'm so sorry for butchering your last name, miss. Ending late night show will star in Netflix comedy from Kenya Barris. Interesting. That sounds good. Colton Ryan to join Ellie Fanning in The Girl from Plainville Hulu series. Huh. Interesting. Ooh, Gabriella Siddleby will make direct. I butchered her last name as well. I'm so sorry. To make feature directorial debut with thriller Pale Horse. Interesting. And Succession is adding Adrian Brody to season 3 in a new pivotal role. Honestly, that's pretty good. Adrian Brody always brings something interesting to the table. He did a really good job in Peaky Blinders, that is for sure. Okay, folks, let us get into the topic of the first episode of Imagination Fun Time, which is The Simpsons. And for any of you who have known me and have known me throughout my entire life, take a sip of coffee. The Simpsons are my all-time favorite show. They mean everything to me. To me, the best way to describe The Simpsons is you are literally getting to watch every great TV show and movie by watching The Simpsons. So, the first episode we're going to talk about from The Simpsons is an episode titled A Star Is Burns. The original air date was March 5th, 1995. It is episode 18 of season 6. Well into the golden age of The Simpsons back in the 90s. The episode was written by Ken Keller and directed by a woman by the name of Susie Dieter. Dieter? It's two T's? I think it's pronounced Dieter. Okay, so the basic plot of the episode is Springfield is low on money. So, what do they need to bring in money besides, just better business? Tourism. And naturally, tourism is low in Springfield, or otherwise there would not be a plot of an episode. So what can they do to bring in tourism? They decide to hold a film festival in hopes of attracting Hollywood, and in that case, Hollywood money and tourists and so forth. And so a whole adventure ensues with Marge starting up this film festival. And they invite this film critic by the name of Jay Sherman to come and be one of the judges at the festival. And natural jealousy between Homer and Homer ensues because Jay is getting all the attention from Marge and the family and everybody else. And then just goes into a lot of integrity about, fair play, politics, bribery, all sorts of stuff. And basically, Homer becomes part of this panel of judges for the film festival that Marge is running. And, it comes down to Mr. Burns, trying to buy his way into winning the festival versus Barney, who actually made a surprisingly deep, meaningful film. And so it really comes down to a basic happy ending of Homer doing the right thing, Mr. Burns losing, and everyone living happily ever after. And the end. Let's see. The point of the story. Well, the background of this whole episode is Jay Sherman is actually a character, for those who don't know, on an actual other TV series called The Critic, which was a animated television series back in the 90s, and it was created by Al Jean and Mike Rice, who are two of the most famous writers and showrunners and producers of The Simpsons. And, this, I guess it was, thought by Jim Brooks and other, higher ups that, maybe a good crossover would be good promotion to help, launch their show. And famously, Matt Groening was very, very against this during the whole production of the episode. He was not happy about, using an episode of The Simpsons as promotion. I don't think he was, mad at Al and Mike for leaving and making something new. I just think he was against the whole, cross-promotion and the tastelessness of it, and just felt too commercial and not, really funny and artistically integrated. I don't know, maybe. And also, I think the episode is just a play on crossovers itself because of other, all sorts of funny references. Let's see, what do we got? This whole episode is just full of super funny moments. There's a bit in the beginning. Bart apparently in his free time makes fake maps to movie stars' homes, and in the Springfield world, Mo Sizlak looks apparently just like Drew Barrymore. I can totally see a resemblance too. Dude, they do look a lot alike. Funny. Let's see. I'm just going by a list of funny moments that I found throughout the episode. If you want to watch the episode, you gotta go find it yourself. Let's see. When Jay Sherman comes to Springfield, he leaves New York City and he comes to Springfield. There's a gag when the New York plane is landing. It crosses paths on the runways and cuts off another plane and says, "Hey, I'm walking here, I'm landing here," or something like that, in a reference to Midnight Cowboy. Mr. Burns, in his scheme to win over the film festival judges, decides to, make his movie as Hollywood as possible. So his original idea was he wanted to get Steven Spielberg to direct it. And naturally, even the world of The Simpsons isn't that ridiculous, where Spielberg is just going to come and work for Burns. So Mr. Burns hires Spielberg's Mexican equivalent, which is a man by the name of Senior Spielbergo. And when Mr. Burns is trying to explain that, hey, what you want, Senior Spielbergo says something that it's said in Spanish on this. I can't remember if it has subtitles or not, but I looked up the translation of it. And it says, "Spielberg is very good. Mr. Burns is the devil." So even this outsider just knows, even from little interaction with Mr. Burns, and Mr. Burns is just fucking nuts. And apparently, Mr. Burns also admits to being a complete Nazi war criminal by comparing himself to Oskar Schindler. No repercussions there, naturally Mr. Burns is gonna get away with it. Oh, that's fucking terrible. When Homer gets his way onto the judge list of the judging panel of the film festival, he's in bed arguing with Marge, and Marge's like, "All right, fine, Homer, you can be on the list," and she crosses off one potential juror, which is Martin Scorsese, which would have been a fucking sweet judge to have. I think this episode was probably the first time I ever heard the Oscar Mayer Wiener song, and maybe the possibly only time I've ever heard the Oscar Mayer Wiener song, because I don't really remember that commercial being around much when I was younger. I was watching Apu's film during the film festival, which in that scene is just security footage of Apu being robbed by Snake again. And in my mind, I'm like, this is 1995. You know, it's a black and white. It's at a convenience store. I'm like, this is a subtle homage to Clerks. Which I don't think it is, but in my mind, it totally is now. Hannibal Lecter auditioning for Burns' film, that's pretty awesome. That would have been a sweet addition. And then when you watch Burns' film, it's literally a ripoff of just E.T. and Ben-Hur. Watching Barney's film, though, I think truly that's what a lot of really artistic art films is. It's just, a lot of black and white, beautiful imagery, some emotional imagery in there, get some beautiful opera music in the background, and basically you got an art film. I think it was a spoof of like a bunch of like art films, like the Cloud sequence I read is a spoof of like some film with a really long name starting with a K that I'm not even gonna try to pronounce because I'm gonna fuck it up. But if you want to look it up, you can always do that. The title of the movie itself, for those who don't know, Star is Burns, is a play on the classic movie that has been remade like 4 fucking times, A Star is Born. Let's see, what else? At the end of the episode, I thought it was funny because the episode ends with the Academy Awards in the Simpsons world, which Burns is apparently, he did win the film festival in Springfield, so the next natural step is, well, I gotta win the Oscar now. Like, it's the only way I can, feel good about myself. And so at the ceremony, George C. Scott ends up winning the Oscar for his role in the remake of Hans Moleman's classic comedy film, Man Getting Hit by Football. It made me laugh because, for those who don't know, George C. Scott famously refused the Oscar when he won for Best Actor for Patton back in the early 70s, which is a pretty fucking cool thing to do, to be honest. Just, like, say, like, thank you, but no, I'm not taking this. Even though I really still want to win an Oscar. I think that's really all that's much. I think that's all I really got to say about that one. I picked this episode first to talk about as the first thing to talk about on my very first podcast episode, is because this episode was full of just references to movies and stuff like that it was my first introduction. I think, one of my first subtle introductions as a kid to, the world of entertainment, to the wider world of movies and entertainment. Naturally I know who Spielberg is, throughout my life, but looking at the list, when I was like, I think I watched this when I was like 10, 11 years old for the first time. So, watching this episode and I see Martin Scorsese on the list, I'm pretty sure I didn't know who that was at the time, but I also probably didn't fully understand the references to Ben-Hur and, the whole launch of the critic thing. But I thought I was watching this a few months ago when I kind of thought about doing this podcast, and I just thought, like, this is just a really cool Simpsons episode that's just full of a lot of movie and TV references, and that really is what probably my favorite part of The Simpsons is the amount of amazing cultural references scattered throughout the episodes that really educate me as not educate me as a child, but inform me as a child of the wider world beyond whatever kids were into back then. I don't fucking know. What do you want from me? I'm rambling. Okay, now let's move on to the second episode to talk about, which is an episode called Mother Simpson. This is episode 8 of season 7, first aired on November 5th, 1995. This episode was written by Richard Appel and directed by David Silverman. The basic plot of the episode is it starts with Homer faking his own death to get out of basic work detail, community service work for the power plant. And faking his own death, the power and electricity ends up getting shut off at the house because it's in his name. So he has to go down to the courthouse and straighten it out and say he's alive. And then one thing leads to another, and he ends up in a graveyard and, being mad at Walt Whitman for some reason. And he ends up falling into a grave that someone had dug for him because people thought, Homer's dead, so we're going to bury him. He falls into a grave, and this woman comes along and subtly says, "You monster, get out of my son's grave." And Homer's like, "Excuse me, lady, but this is my grave." Pause. 1, 2, 3. Wait a second. Mom? Homer? And this big emotional reunion of Homer and his mother. Because I'm pretty sure at this point, it really hadn't been explored as to what had happened to Homer's mother. It was always established, I think, from the beginning that Homer was raised by Abe alone, or that his mother was there for part of his life and then left, but it never was really explained as to why she left. So, basically, we find out throughout the episode that Mona left because she, it flashes back to the 60s, specifically 1969, where Homer was like a young, probably 7, 6, 8-year-old, I don't know, something like that. And Mona becomes radicalized by the culture of the 60s and ends up becoming a fugitive after being involved in, hippie terrorism by trying to blow up I think it was a biogerm lab or something in this episode that was run by Mr. Burns. And so she went on to run to protect Homer because she didn't want Homer to have to see his mother behind bars. So Abe, actually, in his own way, trying to protect Homer instead of saying like, Mona left because she didn't want Homer to see him behind bars. And then when Abe is all alone, he's like, well, I also don't want to just tell Homer that, his mother ran away because she's a fucking criminal. So he ends up telling her that she died, which is still sad, but, a good white lie, I guess. Help a child. I don't know. And then throughout the episode, it's Lisa naturally being the curious one that helps uncover, why Mona truly left, because she was being very, secretive, like, oh, I'm back, and, like, not really explaining why. And then throughout the episode, Mr. Burns ends up trying to capture Mona again after seeing her at the post office, and Mona ends up having to leave again. And, it's a very emotional episode. It's one of those really, really good episodes because of the emotions that it stems from the episode. All right, let's see. What are some of the good, funny moments from the episode? All right, let's start with the fact that Homer apparently spent $600 fucking dollars on the life-size dummy of himself to simply throw off a waterfall and then get sucked into like a turbine reactor. Simply because he's too lazy to just pick up garbage like the rest of his coworkers. And what does he do? He doesn't even do anything worthwhile with the day. He just ends up sitting in a hammock drinking beer. And let's be honest, how many? Let's see, Mole Man. Oh yeah, in the graveyard scene, Mole Man is getting lowered into the ground, which brings up the question, how many fucking times have they killed Mole Man? They killed him a lot. He just always comes back. Uh, Homer states that he kind of looks like Dan Aykroyd. I guess he kind of does. Lisa has a really funny line when trying to confront Mona about the truth. Like, if you don't talk, we'll just call your husband Grandpa. Just such a. That is totally like a line like a child would probably say. um. Oh yeah, Homer. They go to. Mona says like, "Well, I did." Homer's like, "Well, why did you ever write to me and let me know you're alive?" Mona's like, "But I did. I totally did. I tried to talk to you like all the time." And they go to the post office, where, Homer, where they get like this huge bag of like undelivered packages and mail, and it's all simply because Homer like hasn't tipped his never tips his mail carrier, which doesn't make sense at all because like technically all that mail is coming into him since he was like a little kid. So what was he supposed to be doing? Tipping the mailman as a kid? Come on, that's just poor writing on the Simpsons part. Come on, guys, what are you doing? I'm kidding. Um, let's see. Oh, and then it's because they go to the post office though that Mr. Burns ends up recognizing Mona from the old wanted poster. Let's see what else. Oh yeah, classic grandpa being just a typical fucking dude. Comes to the house, sees Mona for the first time in like 30 years, still is pissed at her, yells at her for leaving. Instantly, 2 seconds later, is like, "Can we have sex, please?" It's fucking pathetic. Naturally, she turns it down. He's like, well, had to try. uh, the scene of Maggie just dancing like a fucking painted up baby at Woodstock is just fucking hilarious. Um, let's see. I wrote. Even Burns is gross. Oh yeah, there's a scene with Burns and Patty and Selma, and like, dude, Patty and Selma are just so heinous looking that even Burns doesn't want anything to fucking do with them. Let's see what else. Springfield is a Greek town. Springfield is a very strange town, dude. They have just endless amounts of different districts. There's Greek town. There's probably Russia town. There's probably everything. Dude. There's probably like Little Egypt. Dude. I don't know. I don't know. What do you want? You people are the one listening to this. I'm fucking stoned. I can't help it. Let's see what else. Oh yeah, when Burns tries playing Ride of the Valkyrie when him and the police show up to arrest Mona, and ends up playing Waterloo by ABBA, which is a great song, by the way. I love that song. And a very sweet moment at the end because Abe, distracts the police long enough for Mona and Homer to run out the back door of the house to escape. So even though Abe is still mad at Mona, he still cares enough about her to help her escape. Because fuck the police. Alright, so this reason I chose this episode to talk about though is because it is such a counterculture filled episode. It's just got, if you look into it really, there is a lot of like really cool references to late 60s, early 70s counterculture. For example, the character of Mona and her whole backstory of radical hippieism. Hippieism, is that a word? I bet hippieism was totally a word back in the day. Her whole character in large is based on Bernadine Dorn, one of the leaders of the Weather Underground, and also composite influenced by, other hippies of the day, but Bernadine Dorn was definitely, like, I think probably the biggest influence on Mona. Um, then let's see, there's a lot of really good music in this episode. There's "Sunshine for Your Love" by Cream, uh, "All Along the Watchtower" by Jimi Hendrix, um, "Blown in the Wind" by Dylan, and in the scene where the kids, Marge and Homer, confront Mona about, finally confront her about, like, all right, where have you been? Like, what's going on? You're acting strange. She's sitting on a couch, and the book she's reading is Steal This Book by Abby Hoffman. For those who don't know, Abby Hoffman was a political activist in the counterculture era. Um, and when Mona is explaining, how she got around and got away and all that stuff, and evaded the cops for so many years, she said that she was helped by Tom Hayden, Jerry Rubin, and Bobby Seale, um, which is pretty rad because, Mona's being helped out by the Black Panthers. It's always fucking cool. And then she's helped out by Tom Hayden and Jerry Rubin. And I just like talking about, I think it's cool talking about that now because of the trial of Chicago 7 having been a recent big movie, with all of those people, including Abby Hoffman, being, major characters. This episode also expresses a lot of opposition to the Vietnam War because, just honestly, still fuck that war. That war made no sense. And this episode does a lot of explaining, where Lisa really gets a lot of her spirit from. Her rebellious spirit, her, spirit of just wanting to stand up and do the right thing, which a lot still comes from Marge, but also a lot comes from, clearly, Mona. Let's see, there's just a really great episode all throughout. And then critics really have also talked about the final shot of the episode where Homer helps Mona escape from custody and takes her out to the desert and she gets picked up by some hippies in a VW van, and she takes off again to the vast unknown, having to sadly abandon her son again, but for the right reasons, because no child should have to see their parent behind bars in jail. So Homer takes Mona out to the desert to meet up with these hippies, and they drive off, and Homer stands on the road and, waves goodbye to his mom. And then it just cuts to the next frame, which is the final frame of the episode as the credits roll over, and it's just Homer sitting on the hood of his car, just staring at the star-filled night sky. Just him alone, staring out into the vast unknown, just alone with his thoughts. He had just been through a huge ordeal. He just had reunited with his mom, got to know that his mom's still alive and that she's okay, and that she still thought about him every single day, and she did everything she did for him. And I think that really just had to stick with Homer, and he just had to sit there and, really take in everything that happened. And it's just a really cool episode. It's a really cool visual that shows, like, the true power of animation, create such a vast, beautiful landscape out of just drawings and get so much amazing emotion out of that. The emotion that some people think you can't really get from animation, which those people are just fucking idiots. Alright, so that is it, really, for the very first episode of Imagination Fun Time. I hope you people enjoyed this. Please tune in for the next episode, and the next episode, and the next episode, and the next episode, and the next, and the next, and the next. I don't know, I'm fucking tired. But thank you all for listening. If you made it down this far, I really do appreciate it. And till next time, that's really it. I will figure out something more clever to say next time at the end of an episode. Have a good day, folks.